Alright guys, Scrappy here again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying all day so far. The champions of Major 4 have been crowned and the bracket is set for the World Championship in a few weeks' time in Canada. Thieves, the #1 seed for the first time in the entire history of the CDL. That FaZe had not been the #1 seed. This year it's the LA Thieves, and that sets up a rather fascinating bracket for the first round of the World Championship. Thieves have arguably the easiest run they could have hoped for. They'll likely be focused on FaZe, but could some upset teams happen in the very first couple of rounds? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. This is a picture that Braden took. Scribs did a killer job again this weekend. He was helping us out with some of the photos. I honestly love these ones from the, well, eventual championship victory. The lighting, the colours are all pretty spectacular. And yeah, Thieves take the victory, the Major 4 trophy. I know that some people maybe were hoping for a more, I don't know, spectacular looking trophy or something, but of course, it's not a team-hosted event, so you're probably going to get something like this. And actually was a pretty nice trophy at the end of the day. Regardless, they won the tournament, that's what matters, and it's a pretty remarkable victory because Thieves as an organisation love winning the final event. Now, they also kind of love going back to back. I mean, they've done it a good couple of times. This, of course, was back in the BO4 days. Slasher, Octane, Nadeshot was here on stage for the first time here. This was at Anaheim, right? 2019. Priester and Abel, who got Mudog in the background, Kenny and Crowder on the right-hand side. That happened back then. They won London, they won Anaheim back-to-back. Obviously, a couple of years ago, they went to win the World Championship as well in Vanguard. They won the event before, and they won the World Championship. And now they've gone back-to-back here as well this season in Black Ops 6. Question is, could they go back-to-back as HyDra has done, well, once anyway, when he won the final event, and then went on to win the World Championship as well back in Modern Warfare 2. HyDra's record in the final major of the season is pretty ridiculous. He's won it like every year for the last few years. And I do find it more impressive than winning the first couple of tournaments. Like, it's pretty clear to me that Thieves, so far, are the team of the season, right? Because, this is my opinion, you guys may disagree, but the events at the start of the season, I wouldn't say they're fluky exactly, because FaZe absolutely earns the win Major 1, Major 2. But my point is that at the end of the season, the teams understand the game more deeply, the quality of play is higher, and winning the final 2 majors is, in my opinion, a more impressive accomplishment than winning the first 2. Now, what really matters is what happens at Champs, but the fact that HyDra has won the final major consistently, like every year for the last few years, and Thieves as well have been very consistent at the end of the season too, goes to show something pretty major, I think, about HyDra and the fact that they just, I don't know, they just get better at the end of the game. There were even questions this year about HyDra being like, oh, well, you know, at the start of the season, was he all that, right? Is he going to be that guy? Look, HyDra plays the game like nobody has ever played the game. When this guy's on point, he's gliding around the map like no one else. This is crazy. I had a quick chat with Austin about this actually last night at the bar, even though I didn't really have that much to drink. But look at the crowd. Like, he turned to the crowd and decided to get a crowd shot as the HyDra 4-piece was happening. I mean, obviously there was the 4-piece and then it became the 5-piece, as we know. This, of course, is when he manages to hit the knife on the final guy to complete the 4-piece. Awesome scenes here, really. Of course, you know, the FaZe fans weren't especially happy about it because this is a very big contributing factor to how they went on to lose this series in the end. This was that play, if you guys haven't seen it. And, yeah, this is going to go down as one of the most notable plays in certainly recent CDL memory, right? I mean, watching this live was crazy, especially just the context of it. Final major of the year, 2 best teams in the game, final map of the tournament. You know, people are looking back to Nadeshot's clip, of course, because this is Nadeshot tweeted this out from back in the Ghost days. This is the famous clip where Frizz says, you know, he's, you know, peacock or whatever. You got to let him fly sometimes, or whatever that was. You guys know what I'm talking about anyway. But yeah, Nadeshot says, felt like he had a while to go, but I can see the similarities. So, like, I don't know. Nadeshot's clip was nice, but HyDra's clip was certainly something else, I think. And here, Nadeshot is enjoying the victory, of course. I mean, look, what a championship they've won. Nadeshot will feel pretty vindicated after taking all the pay cut that he did or whatever to get to this point. And, yeah, they go back-to-back. Of course, the big one now is to lock in for the World Championship. As Scrappy says, only the big one matters. Now, love playing with these boys, winning or losing. But like I said this after Major 2. They had a conversation after bombing out of Major 2 at top 4 of the Championship Sunday. They turned a corner at that point, and yeah, I had a quick chat with Ghosty last night. He said, look, since then, they've locked in, and they have been a different animal. On LAN, obviously Thieves are going to be very confident that nobody can touch them. They did lose to Miami, although, you know, Scrap will probably think, damn, if I didn't have the gunship on, I would have probably won that map. Might be very competitive. I think in a best of 5, someone can do it, right? Maybe Surge, maybe Toronto, OpTic, Heretics for sure. But winning against these guys in a best of 9, as it would be in Champs Grand Finals, or even a best of 7 major Grand Finals, is such a tall order given the strength and depth of this team in the map pool. And it's not just Thieves I'm talking about here, I'm talking FaZe as well. They're very closely matched right now, and I think those two teams are definitely a significant step ahead of the rest of the league. If I had to guess what the Championship Grand Final is going to be, it's pretty obvious what I'm going to say, right? Based on right now. But in a few weeks' time, it could be a bit of a different story. Envoy's happy with a back-to-back. Major 4 champions again. As Drazah says, GG's Thieves lost 4-2. Tough for Drazah. His record against Scrap continues to be difficult. His record against OpTic the last 2 years, wow, like 11-1, whatever it is, something crazy like that. His record against Scrappy all time on LAN, I want to say, is something like 9-4, something in that kind of ballpark anyway. So Scrap has generally had his number over the last couple of years, and that's continued again yesterday. They got their own back really from Major 1, where it went the other way. And there was a fair bit of talk about that too from the Thieves guys themselves. As Simp says, GG's Thieves lost finals 4-2, month until Champs to lock in, appreciate the support. So yeah, it's pretty much the last weekends of June. Champs is out there in Kitchener. Before then, it's interesting to see what we will see, because 4 teams have not made it to the World Championship. We'll see the bracket in a second of the teams that have. But 4 teams haven't made it. Can they make changes? I mean, we thought there was maybe a roster lock before this tournament, but realistically, the Falcons, if they want to make a move, are the World Cup going to stop them from doing so? Kind of doubt it. The teams that make champs, they'll have the same roster for the World Cup, especially because it's only like 2-3 weeks after this year. They're pretty closely matched. HyDra was talking about, Major 3 just wasn't as fun, but this major, they won it, but they made a gauntlet run, and I think that's what was probably most impressive from Thieves this tournament. They went down to losers, sure, they lost to Heretics, but their run was they beat Surge. Yeah, okay, Surge went out to Falcons after that, but they 3-0 slammed Surge in about 30 minutes, and they were considered a potential championship favourite, or at least grand finals potential Surge's tournament. They played Miami, lost. They then beat Ultra, they beat OpTic, they beat Heretics, and then they beat FaZe. I mean, that's a serious run. Surge, Ultra, OpTic, Heretics, FaZe, 5 teams to beat in a tournament to win it. That's up there, right? And yeah, aBeZy didn't play up to his standard, he says, in finals, is what it is, a bounce back as always. aBeZy, he wasn't terrible, but he had a 0.9 in the finals. It is actually a pretty common trend when FaZe play finals and they lose finals, that at least one of the Tiny Terrors goes negative, like a 0.8 or 0.9. If both aBeZy and Simp have a 1.0, they win the grand finals like 95% of the time. But, for some reason, that's just not really been consistently there. I don't know that there's going to continue to be talk about it, right, because of Simp's finals record and stuff like this. I mean, there were some numbers floating around the other day. Scump in grand finals was 31 in 11 in grand finals appearances, and he averaged a 1.1 KD over those appearances. Those aren't numbers that anyone can really match. Apart from HyDra, right? Obviously HyDra hasn't won that many finals yet, but in terms of those type of numbers and, finals records being very positive, HyDra's numbers are kind of, on the right track. But of course, it's a long way away. But look, I mean, HyDra is the player that reminds me most of Scump in COD history. I mean, we've said it for years, and it still remains true, certainly after yesterday. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of the piece that Scump had on Stronghold Harpoon against Splice back at ESWC 2016, if you guys know what I'm talking about there in the Bunker Hill. This was the standings, though. Thieves, they've done it, right? I called it before the season started. Thieves would be the number 1 seed going into champs. They did it. They overhauled FaZe, 540 points. FaZe sitting at second at 505. 2-team league, whatever you want to say. Toronto 3rd, Vancouver 4th, Heretics 5th, and OpTic didn't get past Ravens. This is because they lost their head-to-head tiebreaker, not actually because their record is worse, it's because they lost their head-to-head 3-1 against Ravens this season, because Ravens had their number early on, despite what Shotzzy was saying online. Boston, the final team to sneak in. Of course, do you want to sneak in as the 8th seed? Probably not, given who you're going to have to play. But it's better being there, and Boston did it in the first round a couple of tournaments ago where they took down Thieves, obviously very impressively at Major 2. That maybe they can repeat the trick, I don't know. Rocker didn't make it, Cloud9 didn't make it, and then these 2 teams at the bottom we've known for some time we're not going anywhere. Falcons finished the year at 3 in 28. better than the Paris Legion team from a couple of years ago that had 2 wins all year, even though that Paris team actually did win a couple of series at the Pro-Am in groups, but that didn't count towards the overall record. So actually, I think this year total, Falcons, I think, won fewer series than Paris Legion did. But to be fair to Falcons, they did win that series on LAN, and, this past weekend against Surge, and that maybe puts them above the Paris Legion team from a couple of years ago all time. But that therefore leads into the bracket as follows. So this is the championship weekend bracket. 8 teams are going to be there. 1 team's going to win the trophy. And Thieves do have a nice bracket on paper. They play Boston round 1, and after that they play Surge or Heretics. And look, who knows who's going to win, Surge or Heretics? It could possibly go either way. If it's Surge, Thieves will be feeling very confident. If it's Heretics, they 3-0'd them yesterday after everything that happened the day before. So, it's Champs. There's not going to be an easy game in here, theoretically, but Thieves will be feeling very confident as the number 1 seed that they look at this bracket and think, all right, yeah, making it to the upper finals should be a good task before we have to play anyone who's, really challenging, and that is probably, in their eyes, only realistically FaZe. Ultra versus Ravens. So because Ravens held on to the 6th seed, they play Ultra round 1, which is possibly the game you want to play. I mean, outside of Boston and I guess Ravens, Ultra is probably the team that you'd like to play round 1 right now, or maybe Surge, I don't know. Ultra obviously fallen off a bit, are they washed up, right? Is their team compromised? Yeah, I don't know about that. But, look, it's definitely a team that OpTic would probably have preferred to play over FaZe if the bracket was different. But even if the bracket was different and they played Ultra round 1, you're still probably playing FaZe in the 2nd round anyway. So maybe it's better getting it out of the way early. And to be fair, the FaZe series this weekend's, given you've got weeks of preparation now for this match, it was pretty close. Game 1 rewind, they'll look back at it and think they should have won it. Game 2 was round 11, they could have won the search, didn't. They won the control, Hacienda, really impressive, and then got bodied map 4. So, look, that happened pretty much both their series, between OpTic and FaZe and OpTic and Thieves, in some capacity anyway, and yeah, they play FaZe in the very first round. So, going into the weekend, it's probably not what OpTic fans would have wanted to see. They'd have probably liked to see OpTic, make a run and play an easier team round 1, but I think having concluded the weekends, FaZe having not won the tournament and OpTic at least got to 7th, it's better than it could be. I think, my personal opinion is if you're OpTic, you don't want to play Thieves. I honestly think FaZe are more beatable for OpTic than Thieves are. I know that Drazah's record against OpTic is very, very strong over the last couple of years, and he does have their number, but I don't know, I think that OpTic fans shouldn't be too disheartened by this. I think it's possible. And obviously then if you're in the tournament, you're making a run, then, who knows what can happen as the tournament progresses. But yeah, the clear favourites are going to be Thieves and FaZe. I'm sure we're going to talk about this bracket in coming weeks as well. Then the losers all drop down to the losers bracket, and then some teams will be eliminated top 8, top 6, top 4, etc. And then the final day of the weekend is only, as we know, the World Championship Grand Final matchup, which is going to be a best of 9 with, again, unfortunately, no advantage for the winners bracket team. But OpTic, they toiled all season. There was a time where we thought they might not even make it to the World Championship. They have. They got there in the end. They, in the end, qualified comfortably enough, right? Rocker were way behind, so, they did enough. Rocker ended up on 165, so OpTic qualified by a comfortable margin, certainly helped by their top 4 this most recent tournament, but whether they can go one better than that at the World Championship is a different question, because, with a month of practice, you got to think Surge are going to be back a little bit. Boston are going to literally spend their whole month prepping for Thieves, whereas Thieves are probably going to spend some of their time prepping for FaZe, and other teams like this. So, that's maybe even something to think about as well. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.